Well, good evening to you if you're in the US. Good morning to you if you're in Japan, like me. And let me know if the stream seems to be working okay. I think it is. I think I got a good internet connection here. Sorry, I'm a few minutes late. And this is the first one of these I've done in a while. It's been a minute. Been in Japan for, I guess, about... God, I came over beginning of June, so it's been a minute. And did I do one when I think I did one. Like the first week that I got over here, and that was the last one of these that I did. So I'm just going to sign on to Facebook and say, live stream happening now on YouTube. Come join. Thanks for being part of that. So, let me show you guys what Tokyo looks like right now. I'll say this, it's hot. Oh my god, it's hot. It's insane out there. Shibuya, behold. I don't know if you can see it, but look over there in the distance. You can see the, well, not even that far in the distance. You can see the Tower Records that is legendary, and I made a little video about it a few years ago, but it's like 7 floors. There's still record stores, it's true. But man, it's been hot. I heard 30 miles from here it was 41.5 degrees yesterday, and which is the hottest temperature ever on record in this sort of general vicinity. So it was like I set some sort of temperature record. It's kind of crazy. Anyway, all right, so we got 40 people out there online. What's up, people? Hi from Canada. J-Man says, saw you at Viper won the Line 6 pedal. I remember you well, my friend. Thank you for coming to the Viper Room little party we had. That was a lot of fun. And I had a great time that night. The record's been out now for, I guess, when did I bring it out? The 19th of June. So, you know, in a month and a bit, and the response has been overwhelming. It's awesome. So thank you guys if you've been checking it out, and anybody that picked it up, I really appreciate it. It was hard getting it done. Just some snags like the last couple weeks and stuff, some technical things, and it felt really good to just get it out there in the world and done. This might be my first live stream actually since I put it out, I think. So I should have done one right after, but maybe not. Maybe I did one. I just can't remember, guys. My old brain getting melted in the Japanese sun. We've got Boston. Who else is out there? Got L from New Jersey. I was in Calgary last week. Hey, from Melbourne, Australia. What's up? So I did a bunch of lessons for the folks that got in on the pledge music thing. And I've done 9 of them. And a sort of almost disproportionate amount of them were in Australia. I found that really interesting. So there was a few people in Sydney and a fellow in Melbourne. And so that was really cool. The Canadians in your Celsius says, because I said 41 degrees, super motor cat. It's not just the Canadians, it's the Japanese and all the Europeans and pretty much anywhere else in the world besides the Americans. Let me just say, it's metric system. So, I say 41 because here they say 41 because I'm in Japan. And they use metric. Like I say, anywhere else. Sorry guys, it's true. Alright. Anybody in the States, if you don't know metric, I could teach you in 3 minutes. The whole metric system. It's so easy and it makes so much sense. And you'd be like, why have I been dealing with this 1 7/8 business and fractional things for all these years? It's funny. Wait, you know, when I'm in Canada, I think in Celsius. It's true. Like temperature and, you know, gas prices and, you know, just measurement of any kind, I think in Celsius. And as soon as I'm in the States, I think in whatever it's called, the old imperial system, Fahrenheit, etc. You know. But I digress. Let's talk about music. Abbasi says, can I do a tutorial of a Fender Hot Rod DeBille? Hot Rod de Ville. I assume you mean the Hot Rod de Ville. Basically, it's a good basic Fender clean sound, and not such a great overdrive channel that people generally use for the clean, and then they run overdrives and pedals into it and stuff. Charles says he can see in the reflection in the mirror that I'm not wearing pants. That's not true. I am totally wearing pants. Let's see here. Corey Brown says you should do a Tim and Pete show with one of your Japanese bandmates while you're over there. I would actually like to do that. And Tim and I talked about it, like how to navigate that and make it happen. How to make it happen, like if we could somehow, do some sort of like live stream, combine the two stream together situation, and that would be really cool. Let's see here. So we're going to try and make that happen, but we just haven't figured it out yet. Michael says, do some of your guitars pair better with specific amps in my collection? Yeah, for sure. I mean, certain guitars work better with certain amplifiers, I find. Depending on what you're doing, like if I'm playing through my basement or something, there's certain guitars that I feel like overpower the front end of it because it distorts pretty quickly. So, which isn't a bad thing if you want to use the basement for sort of that JTM 45 cranked up bluesy tone. But generally I reach for one of my single coil guitars if I'm plugging into that particular amp, so I don't feel like it has that much headroom in the front end. I could probably put a 50, what's the tube? The 5751 or whatever, or like a AT7 style or something in the first slot to kind of tame the, you can get more headroom out of the amp that way. That's what Stevie Ray Vaughan used to do. So 57, I'm forgetting my tube nomenclature. It's a 5751, I think. Somebody correct me out there if I'm wrong about that. It's the lower gain 12AX7. It has about 80% the gain of a 12AX7. But one of those in the first slot of a Fender style amp can really help to give you some more headroom if you feel like you don't have enough. I'm going to move down here. Daktar says, is it still Sunday there? No, it's Monday. Sorry, it's Tuesday. Yeah, it's Tuesday. And I'm a day ahead of you guys, so I get confused because I just looked at my computer and it says Monday, 7:15 p.m. because it's on Pacific Standard, LA time. So, just moving down here. That standard summer temperature in Melbourne, says the Guitar Colonel. Yeah, I guess it probably is, right? I know it's just still, the world's getting too damn hot, man. I mean, yesterday, it was a heat record here. Not exactly right where I was, but 30 miles from here, there was a temperature set that was the hottest temperature ever on record for that area. It's about 30 miles from here. And yesterday when I was outside, it felt like it's just too hot. Like, I'm going to, cook. Like, the planet is too hot right now. I need to be on a cooler planet. It was crazy. It's the humidity. And thankfully, yesterday the humidity was only up for 40%. It's been up to around 60 or 65%. When it's like that, it feels 20 degrees hotter than it actually is. It's just, you go outside and you just are drenched in sweat immediately. It's been crazy hot. I'm still having a great time over here. I love it. Elsa saw some pictures of Budokan. Like I was having a blast. It was a blast. It was great, especially night 2 at Budokan was killer. We did 2 nights there. And the second night was the night where, when you're on a tour, many times I find bands just sort of coalesce, and like all of a sudden it gels, and it's like, oh, now we're really playing. There's some new members of the band, and so it takes a minute sometimes before everybody gets really used to you can rehearse as much as you want, but until you get out on stage and actually play and get into a flow. So that was about I guess the 4th gig of the tour, and it really felt like we all just kind of, came together as a group that night. The other shows were great before that, but that was the night where I really felt it, and it was super fun. Let's see. Oh, it's 105 degrees in San Antonio. That is hot. Yeah, I know. Texas, man. Texas kind of feels like here in the summer for sure. That the humidity and stuff is very similar. It's my memory of it anyway. Costa Rica. Andre's from Costa Rica. Hi, Andre. This is the new songs. I love Costa Rica. I was there 5-6 years ago, and I had a great time. I actually spent my 40th there. The day I arrived from Costa Rica, and I had a fun birthday. It's a nice place. Really beautiful place. Do a clinic at Washington Music Center, says Chris. I'd love to. I've got some clinics coming up, I think, but that I'm going to announce, but I can't yet because it's not totally, you know, completely 100% confirmed. But there's some coming pretty soon. So some news about that. Let's see here. Surfer B says, Surfer Boy says, Pete, first video I saw you in and I learned from you Dear Prudence years ago. Yeah, I remember that. It was 10 years ago when I made that video, I think. From USA, what's the metric secret? Okay, metric works like this. So it's all in little groups of 10. So millimeters is the smallest little measurement of distance, right? So if you take 10 millimeters and you add them up, you get what's called a centimeter. Think about that as kind of the metric equivalent of an inch. But instead of little fractional things to get to that inch, it's basically 10 millimeters. So 10 millimeters adds up to a centimeter. So 1.2 centimeters is how you would say 1 centimeter and 2 millimeters, right? So you could have 3.6 centimeters or 3.8 centimeters or whatever. It's a very simple way of measuring, right? So 10 centimeters is, sorry, 100 centimeters is gonna equal 1 meter, okay? So you've got 10 millimeters to get to a centimeter, and then you've got 100 centimeters to get to a meter, and so on and so on and so on. So it's all in groups of, I guess 1,000 meters is a kilometer. So that's how you do metric. That's it. It's like the groups of 10 thing. And there's none of that fractional, like I say, 1 in 11/16 or 1 in 7, all these things to add up to a bigger group. But the fractions is what kills me in America. So everything's done that way with milliliters, liters, smaller groups of measurement. It's all groups of 10 adding up to bigger ones. So it's so simple. You could literally look up like, the metric system explained on Google or something, and you would figure it out in about 10 minutes. All the different systems of measurement for distance and amount of liquid, etc., etc. Let's see here. The other thing about it is that freezing is 0. So in Celsius, so the freezing point is 0, and anything above that is hotter, and anything below that is colder, of course. Whereas it's 32, of course, in Fahrenheit. Which is, why is it 32? It's just, I don't know. Just makes things more difficult. It's easier to think about 0 as being the freezing point of water to me. Have I tried the Marshall Origin? No, I've watched some demos of it online and stuff. I saw it at NAMM, but I haven't tried it. Robert says, thanks for coming online. Missed the session. Thanks. Good to be here. Jason says, your view on the Sur SL68 versus the 67. There's no downside as far as volume goes, because the SL68 has that great post-phase inverter master volume on it. So does the 67. So you're going to be able to get the 68 down in volume to the level of the 50 watt or way lower if you want it, using that post-phase inverter master. So, excuse me. So the only the difference between a 67 and a 68 is whether or not you want that kind of small box, that's slightly smaller head look. Maybe less to worry about as far as tube replacement and stuff like that. And then also the tone of a 50 watt as opposed to the tone of a 100 watt. So the tone of a 50 is a little, it's like a kind of a less bold, a little more spongy. It's less bold is the best way to describe it. The 100 watt on full power, wide open, just has that. It's got there's more headroom and all that, and it's just that bigger power kind of tone. I don't know how else to say it really. And if you need the volume of the 100 watt, which you probably don't, because nobody really does these days, I don't think, because it'll be deafening loud on full power, old Plexi 100 watts. But some people like it, and you might need it for something. I don't know. The amps can sound very similar, to be honest. But I would, there's no downside, in other words, to getting the 68 over the 67 if some of your concerns are, well, I want to be able to get the volume down and stuff. Is the 68 going to be too much? It's not really an issue because the post-phase inverter master works so well. You can turn it down to like 7, and now you're at the level of probably even lower than what the 50 watt would be on full power. I think that post-phase inverter master just down even a quarter of the way really takes the edge off the amp, and it really retains the tone nicely. Something about the SL68 is the pot that they use for the master is really expensive, and I guess that's something. There's you can use it, you could use like a $2 part, or you can use a part that costs like $15 sort of thing, and that's what the one that they use in that amp is. It's quite a bit more expensive. Just the dealer cost on the part is exponentially more than what some people use for the post-phase inverter master. And John mentioned to me that he believes that it's the quality of the pot. It's also the reason that it's on the back is he believes that a real short wire run from where you have to patch it, which is I think it's like after it's between the phase. I can't remember where it is in the because I'm an idiot when it comes to amp tech stuff. But anyway, you want to run a very short. It's like a short cable run going from wherever it's coming off of the tag board or whatever to go to that master and then back to the circuit. You don't want to make that like a long. So that's why putting a post-phase inverter master on the front of an amp can actually be kind of detrimental for the tone. So that's just a few things about it. I find that it sounds great, and one day I did a little comparison using the I like the power station, which is the attenuator from Fryette. I think it works quite well to preserve the tone. So I did a little A/B with the power station as well as with the master on the post-phase inverter master, and I went back and forth, and I didn't see any reason to use the attenuator. I just didn't think it was necessary. So I'm gonna kind of get up here and shift sides here because I think that maybe if I do this, I got more light coming in the window that way, and it might be a more even kind of situation as far as the lighting goes. I just realized the daylight's probably blowing one side of my face all out. Okay. Did I buy the 59, says Jim O'Brien. So I was looking at it. It was actually a 58 Les Paul that I put. Check it out on Instagram if you follow me on Instagram. But I played a 58 Les Paul Sunburst yesterday that they'd just gotten into Guitar Traders in Tokyo. And it was amazing. Really, really beautiful guitar. Very tiny frets. I would say if it was me and I was going to buy it, which I never would because I wouldn't have that kind of money. But it had some really thin little frets in it. It was a really nice guitar. Super cool, super beautiful. Check out the photo of it on. It almost looks like a new guitar. It's some of them when you see them, they're just in such good shape that it's hard to believe they're old. Almost, it looked like a mid 2000s R8 or something. But a great player and really great looker. Waves have added a new Abbey Road echo chamber plug-in. What do you think of the really high-end modeling plugins versus the stock ones? That's from Mark. Well, I use for reverb often, or room sound, I use the Ocean Way room from UA, and it's incredible. It kind of is like a convolution room modeling plug-in that gives you the sound of Ocean Way, Studio A and Studio B, and you get different sets of room microphones that you move around within the room. And I don't really understand. You can pick different sources like drum kit or piano or different guitar type cabinets and stuff, and that can be I don't really understand that aspect of the Ocean Way plug-in, and it's not. I've tried to read about it and figure it out, and it's a little bit confusing. But basically, when you use the guitar cabinet as the source in the plug-in, and then you blend it in as you would a reverb, it sounds darker than, say, if you use a drum kit microphone setting or whatever. I don't know. It's just kind of, it's a little bit confusing to me.
that aspect of it. I guess they sampled the room with different instruments, and then they somehow the I'm going out in the weeds here too much, but it can sound different if you sort of flip what the supposed instrument source is, and then you blend in the reverb plug-in and stuff and get some different sounds. Just long story short, I end up using the Vox cabinet a lot in that plug-in. It's not an actual, you're not getting any close mic sound of a Vox cabinet or whatever. It's just supposed to sort of simulate the source of if you have that Vox cabinet in that Ocean Way studio and then blend it in the reverb and give you the sound of what the room would sound like on that. Sounds great. Anyway, haven't tried the Abbey Road echo chamber plugin, but I assume it's kind of a similar thing where they've somehow, it's a convolution reverb where they've somehow got sampling of that room. In any case, I'm sure it's probably pretty cool. The great thing with plugins is that you can demo them. Like with if you've got a UA rig, you can do a 15-day demo of that Ocean Way plugin and see if you like it. And I'm sure you could probably do the same thing with the Abbey Road, right? And check it out and see if it sounds good and see if it's worth it. Any chance I will be selling the lessons I did for the GoFundMe? So I didn't do any lessons for the it's Pledge Music, not GoFundMe, but it was a Pledge Music campaign, and basically the lessons that I did are they were private one-on-one Skype guitar lessons, which is something I might do more of in the future. It was fun, but it's where I basically signed on and did this with people, and they could just ask me one-on-one a bunch of questions. We did an hour each lesson. It was actually really great. I had a really good time, talking with these people and jamming with them and stuff, and trying to help them out however I could with guitar stuff. So yeah, we got it's a more intimate but quality crowd than usual. But it's been a minute since I've done these, so, and it's not my usual time. So I've got about 113 people watching right now, which is awesome. Glad all you guys want to be here. What was the guitar and signal chain on Kyushu Blues? Says Jerry. He likes the tone. That is one of my favorite tones on my new record too. And what it was it's almost kind of predictable that it would be a good sound, I think, because it's my old Strat run into my SL68 into a Marshall 1960B style cabinet that I have, reproduction of an old Marshall 1960B that I just loaded with old Blackback Celestion G12M 75 Hertz speakers. Basically, they're very similar to a Greenback, but maybe just a little bit brighter. So I bought a set of those off a guy in Orange County and loaded them up in the cabinet. And a day or two after that, I wanted to track that tune. I said, oh, of course, I want to try my new toy. So I thought I'll use the Strat and that cabinet with those speakers in it. And I mic'd it up, and that's the tone on Kyushu Blues. So I did most of the song is with my old Strat, and then I did the solos with, if I did all the solos, probably did some of them with the old Strat, but kind of the gainiest stuff I did using my White Sir Classic, which has a humbucker in the bridge, so I might use the humbucker for a few things. But it's a lot of neck pickup and that kind of blues, overdriven blues neck pickup kind of thing going on. What else did I use? For pedals, I used a Archer for some of it, and I also used the BAE Hot Fuzz for some of the fuzz tones. One of my favorite tones for sure, and it's just kind of classic. I mean, it's like basically Strat, Marshall type tone. Let's see here. Robert says, "Great CD, thank you, Robert. Amazing sound. I appreciate that. Enjoyed the 2 videos," and he says he likes every track. That's awesome. I worked hard on everyone. No filler. I don't want any filler on records. What's my favorite Jimmy song to play? I love Castles Made of Sand. I love that guitar part. So beautiful. And yeah, 5751 says G-Man Music Productions. That's the tube. So if you got a Fender that you feel like, or pretty much any amp, you could give it a try. But in the V1 slot, if you've got an amp that you feel like doesn't have enough headroom, it distorts too early, that kind of thing, you can put a 5751 in the first slot, and it should lower the gain and give you a little more room to play with, especially if you're using a guitar with humbuckers, or yeah, just something hot. You know, you feel like you want a little bit more room to play with before it distorts. So let's see here. Matthew says, when I travel to Japan, what's the first thing I want to eat? Generally sushi, I guess. I generally hit the hotel and then I go out and get some sushi. And then I chill out on it after a week or two, and then I might go a whole 48 hours without eating sushi and eat other things. I do love sushi, though. The oceans are overfished, so I'd be the first to get in line and stop eating it for a year if it meant the fish were going to come back. But I do love it. I love it. I want it. I want to eat sushi. Okay, the chat jumped down, so I'm just backing up in the chat a little bit here to get back to where I was. Sorry. Woody says that's what he uses in his deluxe reverb. I assume you mean the 5751 tube. Yeah, it can be great in a amp like a deluxe or something that's kind of low power and you feel like there's not enough headroom. Okay. Acid Drop Baby says, he already knows the circle of fifths and already able to form chord shapes, both major and minor. So the question is, what's next for someone in my level? Am I still a beginner or what? It's so hard to say. Like, it depends on what you want to accomplish. But I would say just play a lot and learn a bunch of music. Practice. You know, too much theory and not enough sort of learning tunes that's the coolest thing is just to emulate, and at the beginning for sure, like try and learn, you know, get your vibrato together, find players with great vibrato and bending technique and stuff, and practice that, trying to emulate those sounds. I saw a funny video of John Mayer the other day where there was some song and he was trying to emulate the phrasing of the vocal with bending and vibrato, you know, and he was like screwing it up, and then he kind of got it. And it was really funny, but he's, you know, a guy like that's still doing that. You know, where you hear a lick or you hear a phrase or something, and trying to emulate it with, you know, get into that, like just playing a lot, I would say, and finding things that you want to be able to play, and then try and copy them, try and learn them, and try and emulate. And through that, you sort of end up developing your own sound. William says it's Monday night, bro. It's Monday night where you are, but it ain't Monday night where I am. It is thoroughly Tuesday morning, getting into afternoon. What do I listen to on the plane? I watch movies on the plane. I watch lots of movies on the plane. I love settling in on the plane, watching movies, getting all emotional. Sit there and get all sad. Oh my god, that was such a good movie. No, I don't do that. Okay. How's the Urine compare to your other Les Paul style guitars? You know, it's pretty amazing, that guitar. A lot of people think, well, how good can they be? I mean, when I see there's more custom shop Les Pauls in Japan than any other place I've ever seen. I mean, there's so many custom shop Les Pauls. Quite honestly, it's overwhelming. You go in the music stores here, and there might be in any one given store, there might be 50 or 60 R8s and R9s and R7s on a wall that you just pick from, and many of them are upwards of $7,000. You know, just how many of these guitars can exist? And so you look through all those, and you're like, well, I've got to be able to play one of these that's probably at least as good as my Urine, or a couple of these are at least as good as my Urine, or at least as good as old 59s. I mean, to be sure, that guitar I played yesterday, the 58, it felt good, but it didn't. You know, I didn't plug it into an amp. That's going to be the magic test, you know. But you figure there's got to be, you know, Gibson, I really, for all the problems that they've had and stuff like that in the last few years, I do feel like the guitars post-2013 or so were some of the best custom shop guitars that I'd ever seen them produce. There was a lot of, you know, stuff about hide glue and people making jokes and stuff like that. But the reality was the guitars actually felt like the neck shapes were a little closer to me, to old ones I played, and they looked really great. And you know, I think they were making some great guitars, is what I'm getting at. But all that said, the Urine, for whatever reason, is a really special, you know, guitar. I give it to people to play, and they play on it. Holy shit! Like, this guitar is really something, you know. And then you plug it in, and it's just got the that sound that you it's just, you know, I don't know if it's a combination of, I mean, I guess it's just a combination of all the factors, but it does have that really, really cool tone that just sounds like a vintage guitar. So, do I have it here? I don't have it here. I don't. I brought it on the first tour that I used with Kyoshi. The problem with using it with Kyoshi is that it's got unpotted pickups like the old ones, and it's a pretty high gain, pretty loud stage. And I found that it was, he likes it when we go up front to play dual guitar solos and stuff, or just our own guitar solos. He wants the guitars cranked, like in the side fills and in his wedges. So the monitor guy brings me up a lot when I'm in the front of the stage. I mean, it's friggin' loud, like right up the front of the stage with the big side fill PA and then the wedges at the front as well. So my guitar is coming out of my amps, like two PT100 100 watts coming from behind me, as well as coming through the. It's loud, and it's like my guitar was just squealing and kind of going crazy if I used the urine at that kind of volume. You just kind of can't get away with that much without getting some feedback and stuff like that. So I just decided that that maybe it wasn't the right guitar for this gig with the amount of, you know, it's like I'm running the channel 3 on the PT with the gain on 5 or 6, so about 6 I guess, and then I'm hitting it with an Archer for more gain. Turn up the volume that loud, and it was too much. It was just too much feedback for me. So I leave it at home, and I use, I brought an R9 out that actually has thornbuckers in it, which are they're similar pickups, but they are potted. John kind of insisted on potting them, and I went back. I didn't really want to, but he insisted on it, and now I'm actually glad that he insisted on it, because for instance, this gig, it's just, you gotta almost have a pickup that's at least lightly potted. So I think there's something to the no potting thing. I mean, they are more. I mean, if you can pick up the guitar and yell in the pickup, and it's like you hear your voice coming super loud through the amp. It's like it's a big microphone. It's capturing. You know, when you dampen those vibrations a little bit with potting, I think there's something to that. You know, the unpotted. You guys tell me what you think out there in the chat. But this is a whole discussion: potted versus unpotted pickups. Is there a noticeable difference? I think there's a noticeable difference, but practically, you kind of have to pot, I think, if you're using any kind of modern high gain stuff and you're on a relatively loud stage, it just gets a little crazy. I know people did it back in the day. You know, they got away with the no potting and stuff back, obviously, and just made it work. But it's just a little bit easier when you're not dealing with that squeal. Eric Johnson, is that the Eric Johnson? He says, do you feel like you broke new ground with your album? If so, in what direction and ways? Well, I did different stuff for me. I don't know if I broke new ground, but I never worry about the musical direction that much. I just play exactly what I want to play. So like my friend Blair said, hey, I've been doing this stuff where I've been making weird, kind of sounds like electronic stuff, you know, drum loops, that kind of stuff, but it's actually me playing, and he likes to run his drums through like contact mics and stuff, and then distortion pedals and stuff, and he makes these crazy sounding drum loops. So that's the drums on Life on Venus, and he came up with that sort of stereo file, that whole drum part, and then sent it to me, and I wrote the song to his drums. So stuff like that was different for me. And it's also a kind of a wacky sounding track and stuff, so that was fun. Also, kind of the tones that I used on that song, where you hear the kind of where it's the sparse sort of halftime sections and the leads, or that was really fun for me, using a fuzz, kind of octave fuzz, and almost like really aggressive, dry kind of guitar that kind of sounds like a monster coming at you or something. That was fun. So different stuff like that, where I didn't worry about. I wanted to experiment, like use different sorts of lead tones and weird pedals and stuff. And then Mark Lettieri plays a solo on that as well, right before the last solo, which is me, but the one right before that with a crazy sort of fusion-esque fuzz tone thing. That's him, which was really fun. It's almost all. I don't think there's anything that's drum loops on the record. So anything where there's drums, it's real drummer playing. So that was different for me too, from Guitar Nerd, which used a lot of program drums. It's a pain in the ass dealing with live drums. I found that, it's so much more difficult to mix. So that was a challenge for me. It's mixed, because I mixed the whole albums. My previous album, I had 3 songs mixed by Bob Clearmountain. So, this one, I felt like I wanted it to be obviously a step forward and be really good. So to match up to at least as good as the old one was challenging, and I felt like that was sort of breaking new ground for me, trying to get better at mixing and stuff like that. Anyway, I don't know if that answers your question or not, but it was so fun. Okay, what are some of the old hair metal guitarists I like? Lynch and all those guys. This is from Super Motorcat. He says, I was over that stuff on Soundgarden, blew me away, but since you shred, just wondering what's influence. Well, I grew up listening to first the Beatles and the Who primarily, and then I got into, my sister was into metal, so she was really into Thin Lizzy, and then got into Metallica. She was really into Sabbath and Ozzy, so I was hearing, Randy and Tony and those guitar players a lot. Then I discovered Van Halen, which was my major guitar influence, I would say, at that time. And then all these other dudes start showing up, like Yngwie and Steve Vai was a big influence, and Satriani. So all those people. It was more those people than like in the hair metal bands. In the kind of the hair metal bands, I would say Vito Bratta he was so melodic, and he kind of, he sort of reminded me of Eddie, but like doing a slightly different thing. So he was an influence. George, I always liked his kind of aggressive, weird, he was great. But I wasn't really crazy about the music, for that band. So if I couldn't get into the songs, it was tough for me. So I was always into I felt like Van Halen had great songs, really great songs that hold up to this day when you listen back to them. Some musically interesting. We were talking about it the other day, like 1984. Like songs like Girl Gone Bad and House of Pain and stuff. Musically, it's just so crazy still when I listen to those songs. The interesting, changes and stuff that go on in those tunes. They still hold up to me to this day. It doesn't sound dated, or it's got a timestamp on it for sure, the '80s, but it sounds amazing. I love listening to that stuff still. Whereas a lot of it, I don't really want to go back and listen to those songs. Yeah, I guess that's what it is. I feel like a lot of that stuff, like Joe, when his album came out, Surfing with the Alien, and it had, Always With Me, Always With You, or something. That song's beautiful. The melody holds up. It sounds amazing to this day, And sure, it's the production has a kind of it's somewhat dated, I guess, or has a sort of dated sound. It doesn't matter. It's like it sounds perfect for what it is. A lot of music from that time bothers me, like the production has a certain sound that I don't feel like sounds good, and then a lot of it, like 1984, is totally weird sounding with the Simmons drums and stuff. But I can't imagine it sounding any different. I wouldn't want it to sound any different. And I feel the same way, like Purple Rain by Prince or something. It sounds perfect, for the you wouldn't want it to be any different. Many of the records from that time, I wish they sound different. Not those ones though. How much gain is too much gain? It's always a good thing to kind of use the amount of gain that sounds like, yeah, that feels super comfortable to play, and then back it off a little bit, I think, and make yourself work a little harder to get clean. That's the right amount of gain. A little bit less than you want. 5% less than you want. How close is this Sur's SL67 or 68 to the real thing? Very, 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 very close. Amplifiers are, it's not like a guitar, so it's the new amps that are recreations of old amps. Like if you get basically a new, maybe there's something to the old Transformers or something, but it's like if you get a new Sir or a new Friedman or something, and it's sort of supposed to be. I mean, I'll give you an example. Like Dave Friedman, a lot of people say to him his amps sound like smooth or something compared to old Plexis, and I've sat in his shop while he's had a small box 50 on the bench right next to his Primo 68 Plexi small box, and he's A/B'd them with an amp switcher while I'm playing, and you can't really tell the difference. It's just like when he sets up the small box a certain way, it can basically exactly duplicate the tone of his 68 Plexi, and he just kind of shrugs and throws his hands up in the air and goes, I don't know what to tell people. Like, they a lot of people think that it doesn't sound the same, or that it's a little smoother or slightly different. So you can basically tweak them to sound exactly the same, pretty much. to the point where I would screw up, where I go, is that the plexi? Is that the, and he's back, and I was getting it wrong half the time. So, yeah, something like an SL67 or 68. Well, if you watch my video, actually, with the I've got the video of the amps in the Zone one with the SL68 and then two old Marshalls, my 7150 watt and then a 6900 watt. And it's not quite a fair comparison because my 68 doesn't have a bright cap in it in that video, and the other two amps do, so they sound a little bit more aggressive. But the bright cap changes the entire. It's one little part on the volume pot that radically changes the amount of aggressive top end in the amplifier. So basically, like. I think it's with the same bright cap in, you'd be hard pressed to tell the difference. Really hard pressed to tell the difference between something like a 68 with the exact same a few parts dialed in exactly the same as an old Marshall or something. It's essentially exactly the same, if not better, in many ways, because they're just more. I don't want to say they're more refined, but it's like sometimes the old amps, they've just got weird little quirks and stuff like that. I have that 7150 watt. I still like the SL68 better. Put it that way. It's like slightly better sounding amplifier, similar, and I like the 50, and I'll use it for things. But when I did, John he said to me when I got it, he goes, "Why do you get that thing? You already have something like that." And I go, "I don't know. It's cool. Like get an old Marshall, And then after I got it, I was sort of like, I was right. He's generally right about everything. I should just basically listen to him. I remember Guthrie Govan saying that, when he got a new guitar or something, he said, "This guitar is a reflection of when I listen to John as opposed to when I tell John what I think I want." And he kind of dictates the woods and stuff. If he's like, if I just let John sort of dictate, I tell him the sound I want, and then he comes up with the stuff, and this is the thing. And he was sort of implying, like, I should just listen to John all the time when it comes to this stuff. I thought that was funny because I sort of feel the same. Generally, when John tells me something and my opinion differs a little or something, I think I want something else, he's probably right. I should just shut up and listen to him. Okay. Let's see here. I have the Strymon Big Sky on my pedal board. I do not. I wish I did actually have one of those pedals. Every time I don't own one, and every time I've used it, I think it sounds great and that I want one, but I don't have one. We got about 156 people online. That's pretty good for doing it at a weird time on a Monday night. And not a lot of people probably knew when I was doing it. I'm happy with that. Let's see here. Paul says, "Hey Pete, I know you're loyal to Sir, but what about in the future starting your own gear company with guitars, amps, and effects?" I've entertained like different things. I've got a couple ideas that maybe down the road I would explore and stuff. There's only so much time to do things, and I do have a really, really cool idea, but I would probably, like for a company, and I've talked to a couple different friends about doing it and stuff like that, but it would be down the road a little bit, and it would be with people that I already work with, so. I just have it, it's like, how do you reinvent the wheel? There's already so many guitars and amps and effects out there and stuff, so I would want to do something sort of special and limited and a little bit different. So I do have an idea. I'll think about doing it more, for sure, down the road. I just want to focus on playing and stuff right now, though, mainly. It's been great to get a new record out and stuff, and there's only so much time, If you start something like that, it takes all your time, and then all of a sudden I disappear as a player, I feel like. So Guitar Hack says, you posted some pictures of some beautiful Les Pauls. Are you buying a guitar? I'm not gonna this time, I don't think, because I've got some other financial obligations that I'm saving for, and things that I want to do, and I don't feel like, when it becomes really easy to, if you're working, you're making some money and stuff, like, okay, I can actually afford it now if I want to get a cool little guitar, but I think this time I'm going to hold off. I have enough guitars, and it's like I'm just going to resist the gear acquisition syndrome and try and save my dough. The other thing about it is I feel like guitars are a bit expensive in Japan right now. But the last time I bought a guitar here, I feel like it was a really good deal. And I feel like now prices have continued to rise here, or maybe in the States, I feel like vintage prices in the States have actually kind of peaked and maybe dropped off in some ways. I mean, for sure, I've seen like guitars like 54 Les Pauls, for example. I saw routinely at the peak around 2007, before the big crash happened. I was seeing for 45, premium prices at places like Groomed or something. They were 45 grand, 45 to 50 for like a 54 Les Paul. I see fairly routinely now those same guitars for 25 or 20 even. I saw one for 1995, that looked like a great one not too long ago in the States. That's a pretty major, decrease. And that happened a little bit here, but now I feel like the prices have continued to kind of climb a bit in Japan again, and in the States I feel like the vintage prices are stagnant, if anything, if not sort of, so in other words, I feel like it might be, if I was gonna get an old guitar, it might be better luck in the U.S. than here, just as far as the prices go. The Les Paul I was looking at, by the way, the 58 yesterday. If you go look on my Instagram for the photo, it was about 400 grand. I think it's the most expensive guitar I've ever picked up. $400,000. I think it was 475 in like whatever the equivalent is in yen. 42 million, 70, whatever, how many yen, which would equate to it's around 400 grand. I mean, come on. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's not ridiculous for what it is, I guess, but it's like, who has that kind of money other than the top guitar collectors in the world, Josh says, what advice would I give to a guitarist who is just starting to demo out songs in a beginner home recording space? Well, I guess the main thing is learn the gear that you have to the maximum. Learn to wring as much as you can out of what you've got. So these days, I mean, if you get a good interface, they've usually got some decent mic pre's in them. They usually come with some package of plugins or something like that, so you've got some stuff to mess with. And as long as you've got like an SM57, and if you're so beginner home recording space, so I assume maybe you're going to use some program drums and stuff. I like Easy Drummer 2 a lot. I think Easy Drummer 3 might have even come out, but that's a terrific drum sampling program, super easy to use, comes loaded with a whole bunch of grooves and loops and things, and I found it very easy to piece together songs using it. So get something like that. And really, quite honestly, the plugins that are available now for amp modeling and stuff are terrific if you just want to get into tracking that way and not miking. You just want to do it all on headphones or something. I'm a big fan of the UA stuff. So some of the tone on Lavinier from my new album, the first guitar tone you hear is actually the Friedman BE100 Brainworks UA plugin. And I've had a lot of people ask me, what's that guitar sound? I love the guitar sound on that song. So I thought that was funny because that's the one they ask about a lot, and it happens to be a plugin. So it's really terrific. The UA stuff, some people maybe, I mean, it's very popular, but some people initially, especially for beginners and stuff, they get a little turned off because they look at the prices and they're like, wow, a plugin's a couple $100 or something. I could buy a pedal for that, or it seems expensive. But actually, they're just super high quality. There's the only way they could do it, charge the kind of money they charge for the plugins, and the interfaces aren't super cheap. It's a bit of an investment to get into it, but they are great. And I use a lot of their bass amp plugins too. So for bass, I use the Ampeg B15, as well as lately I've been using the GK 800 bass amp plugin. So you get a couple of those, and a couple of the different amplifier plugins, and you can do everything you kind of need to do. I mean, demoing songs and tracking stuff that sounds really, really good. So get a couple of those, and then learn your rig inside and out. Just learn it before you buy any more stuff or think, oh, now I gotta get a outboard mic pre's or a compressor, or I need a more expensive microphone, whatever it is. Just use the stuff you've got and try and really learn things like compression and EQ and setting proper levels and all that good stuff. Okay. Robert has some information about 0 degrees Fahrenheit. It was created in England, this is interesting, as the freezing point of salt water on the beach. I didn't know that. So fresh water can freeze at a higher temperature, actually at 32 degrees Fahrenheit. That's fascinating. I had no idea. So thank you. Some people went to school. I've got a high school education. I went to MI for 1 year. Let's see here. What picks do I use? Generally Ultex 0.73s are the ones I use all the time, but I like to experiment too sometimes. Those are the main ones I use though for 10 years now. Eric says he just picked up the aux and he loves it, so it's great. That's cool, man. As always, getting towards an hour, there's always more people online. Then you're like, oh, I should keep going. So I'll go for a little while longer. There's 170 people online right now, which is great. Okay. But I think like boutique picks like Blue Chip, V-Pick, Gravity. I haven't messed with them that much. I will say the Red Bear thing, like they're very expensive and they're made out of something. They are cool. Like they feel really great, but I'm terrified to lose them. You know, they're like $20 each or something like that. But they do have this really, really great feel, and they're nice for playing kind of technically articulate stuff. But there's so many like picks from Dunlop. I use Dunlop, and they sent me a sampler kind of bag a little while ago that had, you know, the new Petrucci ones and like all these different, you know, there's so many that you can get from just a company like that it's like I kind of got everything I need there. G-Man says, have the city view in the background. I would, but then I would need a bunch of light in my face because otherwise it'll just get super dark like this. Right? So then you can see that. Just hear me as a silhouette talking. So what's my next guitar purchase? Anything calling to you? Not really. Not right now. I feel like I've got guitars that I haven't even played enough right now. You know, there's a few that I wish I had more. Like I haven't played my old 335 for a long time that I've had for so many years, but I was thinking about it today. Like, I want to use that damn guitar more. I love that thing. So, you know, let's see here. Okay, do you suggest your service signature for a player who wants Les Paul tone but in a Strat style guitar? Yes. I mean, yeah, basically it would be a great pick for that. One thing to consider is it's not 24 3/4 scale like a Les Paul, so the scale length is a huge part of the tone of a Gibson. The short scale versus the Fender 25.5, sort of more taut, sort of, you know, a little stiffer scale, has a different sound. But yeah, the PT guitar for sure. It's all mahogany. It's a maple top. And it's, you know, if you're comfortable playing Strats and stuff, and you want to be able to get both sort of some Strat or single coil tones, as well as, excuse me. Oh, okay. Just checking out my computer. I was like, what's wrong with it on the side? Sorry, I digress. It's a great, you know, way to get a whole bunch of different tones out of one guitar. Most people that play it they have that kind of like, you know, realization that it's like, wow, I can get so many different sounds. You know, that's the first one I hand it to people, and they realize that the next single coil sounds pretty legit. You know, when it's in single coil tap mode, and being able to get the bridge pickup and parallel and stuff. It's got a lot of tones in it. It's a sort of a Swiss Army knife guitar. Let's see here. Do you use the built-in distortion of an amp instead of an overdrive pedal? Always. In my amp, mainly I use the built-in distortion of my amp. In other words, the preamp section of the amplifier for gain. I always feel like it's just more juicy and organic and dynamic and all that good stuff. Like John Sir always says, it's like you can't get the, you know, when you got 250 volts on preamp tubes in the front end of an amp, you just got so much headroom and tone and stuff. There were different ways that you could play with that as opposed to a pedal with a 9-volt, you know, battery in it or whatever. It's just not the same thing. So what's the green Telly style guitar that has Filtertron pickups that you saw in one of my videos the other day? That's from Super Motorcat. That's a Tressart that looks like it was found at the bottom of the sea. It's like all rusted out and stuff. Yeah, it's got a Filtertron in the neck, and then a single coil and a Bigsby And I kind of wish I had that guitar here, actually, to tell you the truth. It's a weird, quirky guitar, but it is cool. And I, I used it a few times over here in Japan on tour, and I've used it. If it's got a tone, it's got a certain thing. It's unique. That's another guitar that like I should play occasionally more and stuff. Um, and I just haven't, for a while. But it is cool. Paul says he's got a Sur standard. I'm going to try and go a little faster here through the comments. He says he's got a Sur standard with Thornbuckers. You notice the volume pot is very sensitive with low volume up to 3, and then full volume after 3. Is that right? My volume pot's pretty smooth. I mean, it feels pretty smooth all the way through. But you can ask the guys at Sur if it's got something to do with the cap resistor that they use for kind of to preserve the top end on the volume pot, or maybe you could make a tweak if there's something that that you wish was different. What are some plugins I think are great for a good price? Anything other than UA? I love Sound Toys. So all the Sound Toys stuff. Decapitator is amazing on anything. Vocals, drums. You need more distortion on a bass or something. Use Decapitator. It's incredible. And Echo Boy is the kind of industry standard delay plugin that does pretty much any delay sound you could ever want. So it's incredible. What other plugins? There's a Waves plugin that I really like called Mix-Centric from it's the Greg Wells Mix-Centric plugin. It's a one knob plugin, so you just throw it on the master bus, or you could throw it on like maybe a drum group or something like that. It basically does EQ, multi-bend, compression, limiting. It's like all kinds of stuff, and it's just supposed to, whatever you put into it, it's supposed to make sound like a mastered record, basically. It's great for kind of quick mastering, cleaning up of a mix or something like that. So that's really cool. Check out Mix-Centric. As far as other plugins for amp stuff, the Mercurial stuff that I did the demo of a little while ago for their Marshall stuff, they're a company from Russia. It's a really amazing sounding Marshall style amp plugin. I think you can download a demo of it if you want to check it out. There's also the video that I did about 2 or 3 months ago on my YouTube if you want to have a listen. But yeah, the Mercurial amps. I think they've got a Marshall kind of bundle, and then they've got a version of the Mesa Triaxis, which is interesting. But they modeled that in a plugin. I haven't tried that one actually yet. But and what else? What else? Oh, that's some good ones. Check out those. Have I ever been scuba diving? No. That's from Phil. I like snorkeling though. Never done scuba diving. Jeff says first time actually able to join live, and he loves these. Oh, thanks, Jeff. That's Jeff Olick. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. Will I ever tour in China or Korea? I would love to. I mean, I've been asked to do some clinics occasionally in Korea, and I always, I wanted to kind of make that happen in conjunction with one of these trips to Japan, just because I'm right here. It's a very, very short flight to get to Seoul. So I would love to go there. And China, I mean, it's a place I've never been. I don't know. A lot of my friends go there, and they play with Chinese artists and are touring over there and stuff all the time. There's some huge, Chinese pop stars and stuff that tend to hire Americans and bring them over to go on tour. So maybe that'll happen to me one of these days. I don't know. I would love to do that. Braveheart Reefer is in Scotland. What's up? And Chris from Hawaii. What's up, Chris? I'm jealous. I wish I lived in Hawaii. Lucky. What island are you on? I'm going to visit again sometime soon. Oh, chat jumped down, so I'm going to back up. Try and find where I was. Sorry, one sec. Oh man, I'm so far back in the chat. I better just start from where I kind of back up. Sorry if I've missed any of your questions or something. Maybe ask them again, or I'm going to go as fast as I can here. Roll Camp says awesome demo on the EVH 5150 MSR chorus. Thank you. It does sound good. It's cool for that thing. It's one of those diver down tones and that kind of still chorus. It sounds really good. Okay, moving down, moving down, moving down. Eric says, just a reminder, his chat feed is slower than ours, so give it a minute for questions to be answered. It's actually that I'm just slow. I take too long, and I get too long-winded. But thanks, Eric. I appreciate that. It's true. If I don't get to your questions, I'm really sorry. Robert Baker's here somewhere. Hi, Robert. Have I had a chance to play any of the Synergy stuff? Looking for your first module for the Synergy stuff. High gain channel for your AC30. Yeah, it's cool. The Synergy stuff is cool. I would say for a high gain one, get the Friedman one, the BE one maybe. I liked the Plexi one too. I thought it was good. I played it a little bit, and it's interesting. For like adding a high gain channel to an amp with an effects loop, something like a Hot Rod DeVille or something like that. I guess you could. They've got effects loops, I think, and you could use this little Synergy one module to add like a gain channel that sounds different. It's an interesting concept for sure, and I think they sound good. Vincent says Vincent was one of the fellows that I hooked up with for a lesson recently, a Skype lesson. And good to see her, Vincent. He says he saw Foo Fighters in Boston on Saturday for the first time. Always a great show. They totally rock. Keeping the rock flag, torch, burning, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Somebody here just, sorry, it's T4 Hill. Picked up a Badger 35, sounds killer through his 212 with G12H's. Yeah, Badger 35 is really nice. Really, really good. Let's see here. Unpotted for what it's worth, says Bob Bradley. He likes unpotted pickups as opposed to potted. Yeah, I mean in the studio, it's like it's the ultimate. And then if you're not too loud on stage, it works great. Get up loud, and you start preferring the potted pickups pretty rapidly. I find the squeal just gets out of control. Did I go to school for music? I went to MI did the standard kind of VIT 1 year thing. Did I go to Guitar Street yet in Tokyo, Sumino Chanamizu? Yeah, I've been there. I'm actually heading over there later today. We're gonna go see Nita Strauss is in town doing a clinic, so I'm gonna go check that out later and see her and stuff. I guess she's got I've got about 5 days off right now, so kind of plenty of downtime and stuff. So I'll be over to Chanamizu later on in the evening. Let's see here. Vito Bratta was too easily defined as an Eddie clone. Yeah, he was totally his own thing. I mean, it was the tapping thing, and he also sort of physically resembled Eddie, which was interesting. I've got funny Vito Bratta stories, actually. I could tell you guys if anybody cared. But he was living in my apartment complex when I first moved to LA, and I was a fan of his. The apartments I used to live in, and when I first moved, I lived in the Oakwoods. Which is like a corporate kind of housing place. When I first moved to LA, I got an apartment there for 6 months. And it's the same place. I remember Badlands, remember with J.K. Lee and Ray Gillen? They were living there when I first moved in, making a record. Because, like the label would pay to put them up in the Oakwoods or whatever. It's like corporate short-term housing, but you could rent an apartment or furnished apartment for 3 months there or whatever. So, Aldo Nova, he was there. And then I know right after I moved out, Nirvana moved in and actually made Nevermind. So, like, I moved out, and I guess it would have been mid-91, early 91, something like that, mid-91, after 6 months of being in LA. So I probably moved out in March, and I moved to Hollywood, March of 91. And Nirvana moved in not long after that and made Nevermind at Sound City. Kind of cool. Little aside. Trivial information. But what was my point? Oh, Vito Bratta was living in the apartment complex as well, and I got a piece of his mail once, and I went over and knocked on his door because I knew he was there. And I went over and knocked on his door, and he was really mean. He was probably preoccupied doing something else, but I knocked on the door. He's like, "What the hell do you want? Go away!" I was like, let's have a piece of your mail. And he came and he opened the door. He goes, oh, thanks. Grabbed it. That was it. Anyway, he wasn't very nice. But I still like his guitar playing. Let's see. Curious, do I like bands like Incubus who mix rock with hip hop and funk? I do like Incubus, and I like the guitar player in Incubus, and I like his tones and kind of creative parts. I mean, they're real melodic and great songs. They kind of disappeared. I wish they were like. I know they're still a band, right? They're not, but I just feel like what happened? Like, I don't feel like they've put out. I mean, they wrote great songs. I feel like, and I just did. When did that kind of? I don't know. I don't want to be too critical, but it's like I wish they'd put out another album with some killer tunes because they were a really good band. Speaking of 80s tones, what are my thoughts on the Smiths, The Cure, and Crowded House? Love, actually. Um, super musical, and sort of later on, I developed an appreciation for how good some of the guitar is in that music, and now I just love Johnny Marr. I think he's awesome. I like watching him on YouTube, and finding more than listening to the Smiths or something. I like going and watching his interviews and finding him like sort of demonstrating stuff on YouTube and watching him play and just how musical he is and stuff. So I'm not really a Morrissey fan. He sort of bothers me. I like watching Johnny play Smith songs more than I like watching the Smiths play Smith songs because I like the way Johnny sings them or something. I don't know. Morrissey just sort of bothers me, I guess. but he's a great guitar player. Super cool. Like I often think I could have gone that route. Maybe like moved to London or something, gotten into doing something in the 90s over there with some band or something. I would have been totally happy, like kind of taking a totally different path because I do really dig that stuff. So what else here? Derek is too kind. He says I don't necessarily feel like I'm an amazing guitar player. But he said when you're as good as you are on guitar, thank you. I feel like I've got a long way to go still, but keep practicing. How do you practice or challenge yourself to get significantly better? Well, there's so many players that, like, right there, quite honestly, I feel like, but an endless assortment of like inspiration on YouTube now. I downloaded, for instance, like some lessons from Jam Track Central for Mateus Asado. His lesson, Laurie Basilio's lesson on fingerstyle soloing. Amazing, like killer guitar playing and lessons there. So there's so many different places you can kind of draw inspiration from, and these days that I feel like it's hard to get bored. Just seek out some of the. Go to the Jam Track Central site and look at some of the kind of the examples and trailers and stuff like that they have up for some of those lessons and download a couple of those. They're really great. Playing solos with your fingers or something, just emulating some of what Laurie's doing, for instance, because she's got such a unique, cool style, so melodic and stuff. That's a terrific thing to do. Robert Baker says, do you think you'll ever go back to your long hair ways? Robert, I don't think so. I can't pull it off like you. It just doesn't grow like it used to, Robert says he's sporting the pompadour. Yeah. Yeah, I just, to be honest, like right now here, it would be hell because it's like 40 degrees outside Celsius. Okay, moving down. Find another question. Have I seen the Game Changer audio plasma pedal? No, but I've heard about this thing and I do want to check it out. Our DI box is much better than direct into interface for a DI signal for reamping. 9 times out of 10, I just plug into my 1/4 inch in on my UA, to tell you the truth. But you might have a different. They do kind of have different DIs. The transformer and all that into DI. They can have different sounds. You might feel like one sounds a little more clear or robust or something. I don't know how else to describe it. I guess it's worth experimenting with. Oh, you're saying for a DI signal for reamping though. Hmm. Like if you're using like something like the two notes. What's the one for reamping? I have one. I'm forgetting the name of it. Um, no, it shouldn't matter. I don't think it should matter really in that. So the radial makes a box that where you come out of your interface and you plug into it, and it makes the signal goes from low impedance out of the interface to high impedance. Then you plug it into the front end of the amp, and you can reamp. Maybe that's what you're talking about. It is good to use something like that because I think, I think that it does change the sound. I had one of those little radial sort of reamp boxes. So in other words, you take a line out of your interface with a DI guitar that you've already recorded, run that into that box, and then take that quarter-inch out into the front end of the amp. You should use something like that. And the thing to be aware of is how hard do you drive the front end of the amp, because there's no way to, you know what I mean? Like, how is the output of the DI gonna the output that's coming out of the interface of that DI signal plugged into the front end of the amp? You want to make sure that it's not like 10 dB hotter or 20 dB hotter than what would actually be coming out of your guitar. So it might be good to just kind of plug your guitar into the amp and play a little bit, a similar guitar at least, and then run the DI signal into the amp and push play on the recorder and listen to that sound that you're going to reamp, and make sure you're not driving the hell out of the front end of the amp way harder than you would with a guitar. It doesn't have. It's not an exact science. As long as it sounds good, it is good. You could hit the front end of the amp way harder if you want, but it's just something to be aware of when doing reamping. That said, I never do that stuff. I know producers that always do that. They always record a DI signal so they can reamp later, and I guess it's a cool thing to do if you're, if you have the tracks. Any Soldano news? I've heard that Mike's. I don't have any news, and I don't pretend to know. I've heard he's going to do some stuff, but I don't know what. I saw a thread on the Gear page about it that some people are talking about his stuff, and I did hear some things a few months ago. That's all positive. So, but beyond that, I can't say. What does a good sideman gig pay these days? There's no formula for that stuff. It's all over the map. It's anything from free to lots of money, to be honest. So there's every gig is different. Moving down. I should go soon, you guys. So it's about. I'm going to go to an hour and 20. So it's an hour and 12 minutes. So I'll go 8 more minutes and hang out for that time. What do I think of Jet City? I thought they were kind of cool. Dave Friedman has modded a lot of those, does a couple things to them to kind of make them a little bit cooler, and he's got some cool mods that he does for Jet City amps, as well as like DSLs, where you can kind of make it quite a bit cooler with just a few simple mods and stuff. So I thought they were kind of neat though. So I see how far back I am in the chat right now. You guys are talking about when I was mentioning how expensive that Les Paul was. I'm sorry that I'm kind of slow on the chat. I apologize. How often do I use my aux, says Michael? All the time at home lately. I love that thing. I use the Sur and the aux about equal, I would say, because sometimes I still love the tones that I get with the Sur load, which is a terrific sounding load box, and Celestion IRs. And sometimes I just want to do that. And then, the aux is great for some alternative stuff, other things I want to do. And of course, it's got the built-in effects, which are, I really love the having the 1176 and the EQ and the reverb in there and the delay sound exceptional. So if I want to print that stuff, it's nice to use the aux. So I use both the Sur and the aux about evenly split, I would say. Yeah, L says got the Friedman Buxom Betty plugin. It's great. It is great. That's a UA plugin. The guy asking about plugins was saying what are some other things besides UA, but the Buxom Betty is a really nice plugin. I quite like it. So easy way to do wet, dry, wet, ping pong delay with one guitar, one combo amp, an audio interface, computer, and speakers. Well, just mic the amp or use a load box or something on the amp, get the signal in the amp into the computer, and then add a stereo delay plug-in on the track. Like that so if you're using GarageBand or Pro Tools or Logic or whatever, just put a delay plug-in on an aux send on the track that you've got whether you mic the combo or whatever. Throw the combo in a closet, throw a mic on it, put it where you can't hear it, pull up that signal in your speakers and your computer interface, and then add a stereo delay on that track, and you'll have your wet, dry, wet. You could do that with GarageBand, and it would be free if you have a Mac. Basically in one mic and an audio interface, you could make that happen. Have I ever had the opportunity to play Can't Change Me acoustic with Chris? Yes. Jennifer's asking that. Yeah, I used to do that. Ever do any acoustic gigs with Chris? Yeah, I used to do with Chris Cornell. I used to do all the radio performances. So we'd go to a radio station, do like a live on-air thing, and it would just be me and him with acoustics. I did a lot of that with him. Like first thing in the morning, we'd be at some radio station, sitting in a weird little room with headphones on, playing together at like 8 in the morning. And well, there's a video on, if you look for Chris Cornell Big Bear Lake in California. We went to Big Bear and we did this weird it was a KLOS thing, I think, or KROQ thing. And it's like it was like we did a bar gig, like the two of us sitting on stools with acoustic guitars, and there's video of it on YouTube. Somebody took a video and put it up. It's kind of I remember having a great time that day because we got snowed in up there, and it was we ended up getting back down the mountain, but I ended up being in the car with him for, I don't know, like 12 hours that day, because the ride down took 6 or 8 hours to get back to LA, because coming down the mountain was so slow because of the snowstorm. But he was so funny and telling me so many amazing stories. I still remember a lot of those stories from that day, because we spent, I think I went to his house at like 10 a.m. We drove all the way up to Big Bear and did the gig around 3 or 4 p.m., something like that. And then I probably didn't get home till midnight or something, but we were just hanging all day that day, and it was just some of the it was just hilarious. A lot of the stories he was telling and stuff. So, but anyway, I digress. That gig, we might have played "Can't Change Me" at that gig. We probably did, actually. It's probably on YouTube. Where's Godzilla? He's on top of a building in Shinjuku, actually. I saw him the other day, on top of the Toho Cinemas. It's true. William says, what's my opinion about the Origin Revival Drive versus other amp-in-a-box pedals? Well, they really kind of knocked it out of the park. I mean, it's big, it's heavy, it's expensive, but it's kick-ass. It's really more like a preamp built into a, it's like an amplifier in a pedal. It's really quite something. And there's something to there's a couple things on it that make it different than pretty much any other pedal. One of them is the ghost notes thing, which simulates the ghost noting effect that some old Marshalls have. That kind of sounds like two notes with like a lower harmonic going on when you're playing up higher on the neck. And you can dial that in with that knob on there, and it really adds this interesting, weird, imperfect, and cool character to the sound when it's blended in just a little bit. So I really like it. I know Peter Frampton got one. He seems to really love it. And yeah, it even sounded great plugged right into a power amp. So in my video, you see that. Christopher says, "What do I think about Friedman guitars?" I think they're good. I haven't played them a lot, but Dave's my pal, and he's a guitar nut, and he likes, they're pretty cool aged designs, with their, they've got the relicing going on and stuff. I haven't, to be honest, I haven't played one enough to see if I would really bond with it or not or anything like that. So, but I mean, he's, they look really nice. I've played a few that sound really good. He made a nice one for Steve Stevens that I tried. I thought it was really cool. Or they made, I mean, I think it's Grover Jackson that has the shop. He's building them and stuff. Okay, gotta go soon, but let's see. Oh, Chris says he noticed Chicago Music Exchange is selling my signature guitar in the shop now. That's awesome. That's great. I know they've been hard to find. Some people are like, I've never seen one. I can't find them. There's, not tons of them out there, but the orders have been stellar. You know, they've taken a while to build and get out, I guess. When am I going to play in New York? I don't know. When somebody hires me a gig again in America. It's been a few years. It's like I keep doing the gigs in Japan and France every year. It's like that's been my touring life for the last 5 years. It's been a minute since I toured the States. Michael says, when's the next Amps in the Zone video coming out? It'll be, it'll have to be after I get back. I do want to do a Vox one, though, when I get back to LA. Find one more, a couple more. Ever jammed with Ian Thornley? Says Super Motor Cat. Yes, Super Motor Cat. If there's videos of us doing the Sir Party in 2013, I think, on YouTube, where we play Blowing Wide Open and Control and a bunch of different Big Rack songs. So check that out. Just search for Ian Thornley Sir Party 2013, I think it was, and you can see the little. I put together a band for him so he could come down and play with my friends John and Blair, and we just had one quick sound check kind of rehearsal, and then we played, and it was pretty magic. I had such a good time doing it, and he was amazing, just kind of coming in and doing it, and being filmed and recorded and everything, and it sounds to me like a band. I mean, I thought everybody just knocked it out of the park, and he was amazing. Being able to sing so comfortably and kind of like not really sounding that great on stage, to be honest. The sound on stage was like with the monitors and stuff, it was kind of chaotic sounding. And when I heard the recording, I was just knocked out with how well that guy sings like a bird. It's like perfect pitch, in tune, just incredible. And he's so dialed in, his phrasing and everything, and it's like it could have gone a different way, and it sure didn't. He's just such a pro, amazing guitar player and musician, I think Ian is. Okay, I got to run pretty quick here, but a couple more questions. What type of amp do I feel is the most versatile to get outside of a signature PT100? The most versatile? God. I don't know, honestly. I mean, the PT100 to me is one of the most versatile amps. I know what's different that I feel like the PT100 can't do, which is like AC30 sounds. It does most things really well, but like a EL84 or AC30 thing, that's a distinct thing you have to get that amp for to do. But the most versatile, I don't know, to be honest. I don't think I can think of a lot of amps that have 4 channels and stuff. Like, yeah, I've played some of the the JVM Marshalls and stuff like that I think are pretty good, but they're not the PT100, to be honest. Saw you play a Nag Steve Stevens SSC in a video. My opinion on that guitar, it's great. I have a red one. It's awesome. It's a lot of fun. Really solid Les Paul style guitar. And let's see here. What's my schedule and when do I come back home? I'm over here for a little while. It's true. Oh, lost audio. Okay, people say the audio is buffering and stuff. So sorry if it crapped out here at the end. But it could be my, when you're in a hotel, sometimes the internet is not the best. So it's just random. I'm happy it's worked as well as it has, to be honest. We'll be back on that pedal show anytime soon. I'm gonna go to GitCon in October. Maybe those guys will be there again, so we can do something in a couple months together again, I hope. I'm not 100% sure if they're going or not, but that would be cool. Do a demo of the Ethos TWE1. He's asked me to do one, and I would love to do it. I just can't right now because I'm over here, but maybe when I get back I can get on that. A couple more questions really quick. Alan has an AC15, DSL20, and Princeton 68. What essential amp am I missing? I would say, I mean, you kind of got a great cross-section there, actually, of Fender, Marshall, and Vox. You're really not missing anything, to be honest. I don't think. You've got small versions of all the major food groups. Uh, Edward says, how do you set your amp when I use the Starlight fuzz? Sometimes I have a rhythm overdriven sound, then hit the Starlight for a solo, but it doesn't cut through the way I'd like. Yeah, it'll kind of tend to flatten out. The Starlight fuzz is a big, brawny, fat-sounding fuzz, and it tends to work well into a clean sound. So if you're using an overdriven sound in your amp and adding that, it might be kind of flat-sounding, I would think, and not cutting through. That's just the nature of fuzz. You know, you might want to use it with something like an EQ or maybe stacking it with a tube screamer or something, but maybe that's too much to give the mids. You could just experiment, but I think it's best running into a clean channel, to be honest, and then running it kind of hot, like gain kind of high for an alternative kind of big, fat, brawny fuzz tone, but it's not too like a big muff or something. It's more it's like halfway between a big muff and a distorted amp sound to me. That's what I really like about the Starlight. Trevor says, love your new CD. Having it signed by you makes it that much better. Thanks, man. I've had a lot of people ask about CDs, and if I have them available, they are at CD Baby, just like my old record. So CD Baby is where you can get one. So sorry if it's not working good. People are saying buffering again. Sorry if it sucks, and I guess I'll get going if it's starting to kind of crap out, and those people dropping off a little bit. So maybe there's some technical issues. But all right, guys, I'm gonna jet. It's a little tough to predict when I can do these, which is why I haven't been doing them on Sundays like the usual time. And I'll just have to kind of, when I have a minute, I can post on Facebook or whatever, or on my Instagram, and let people know when I'm going to do another one of these. And once I go back home, I'll get back into the regular swing of doing them on Sundays, because I like doing them on Sunday mornings. So thanks for joining, and everybody have an awesome rest of your week, and we'll see you soon. All right, take care.